Guys, what should I tell you? This was an absolute crazy week. It's so tough to give you the current state of the drinks industry if Trump is changing his mind every 20 minutes or so. So I was trying to wrap up the happenings of this week in episode number 242 to give you kind of an overview of what is going on with the taxes in the US and the reactions of Canada and Mexico, what was going on the other side of the planet, and two crazy news from our celebrity corner featuring Pharrell Williams and our favorite guest, Snoop Doggy Dogg. And then there were two banger news of the week. One is about alcohol-free organic wine, and the other one is about one of the biggest players in the drink industry, Constellation Brands. Have fun with our weekly update, 242. Welcome to the Pinot Pickle podcast episode number 242, the weekly update with the craziness of Mr. Trump. And we start with, what was promised right before he was elected, that he will put tariffs on Mexico and Canada. And this happened on March 4th. And then Canada started reacting to it. Before we dive deeper into what has happened, if you want to keep the overview, there's a really good article of npr.org, The Short History of Trump's Tariffs Chaos. This gives you an overview. I will put the link in the show notes so you can read if you don't have the time to, dive deeper. This is a perfect summary. So, Trump puts tariffs on Canadian and Mexican products. And I mean, there's a huge impact on the whole industry of Mexico, of Canada, and of the United States because they, depend on each other a bit. And there was a reaction, a very planned reaction, an orchestrated reaction of Canada. And it started with LCBO, it's the national committee that is responsible for the alcohol sales in Canada, in the state. They paused U.S. alcohol imports as a response to the tariffs Trump put on Canada. This means we are talking about an industry worth $965 million. And this was stopped immediately right after Trump has announced his tariffs. But this wasn't all. Canada also removed all American spirits and drinks products from the shelves. This was absolutely crazy. And then the CEO of Jack Daniel's, Brown-Forman, said that removing U.S. alcohol off store shelves in response to Trump's trade policy is worse than tariffs because you don't earn a penny if you can't sell it. It's quite easily, actually. And then, of course, some people went crazy on social media. It started with Webb, and he's quite loud actually on Instagram and on social media. Webb Kainu, I hope I pronounce it correctly, is the Prime Minister of Manitoba, and he fooled Trump a little bit. We'll put the link in the show notes. He said, "This order is a wonderful order. It's a beautiful order. This order is pulling American booze off the liquor market shelves in Manitoba." Yeah, and then he was, celebrating with his team. Well, this happens as a response, of course. And then one more funny story. Millions of lobsters are leaving U.S. waters and moving north for colder waters in Canada. I think that this is not a reaction on Trump tariffs, but of course, Toronto culture in that case is making fun of Trump as well. And at the moment, I have the feeling that some people still can laugh about that, but it's only getting worse. And maybe even the Americans are realizing that, resulting in Trump pausing the tariffs on some Canadian and Mexican products until April 2nd. And this happened on March 6th. So another executive order where Trump says, my tariffs have been paused because of this and that. Well, it will only take a couple of hours or maybe days until he will, think of something different. He was currently talking about 250% tariffs on dairy products, or Canada because the Canadians have been ripping off America in the last decades when it comes to dairy products. Well, what shall I say? It's a crazy time. It's crazy. It's a crazy story. And then, let's say, not only talking about Canada and Mexico, because he also had put tariffs on China. The stock market was reacting, not only in China, also the European ones and American ones were down. Crypto was down. All the markets were responding really badly. In some cases, over 15 to 20% loss. And then he announced that his next target will be Japan, because they are also importing a lot to the US. They are one of the biggest exporters to the United States. We're talking about spirits, they have a lot of breweries, technology, stuff like that. And they can also be affected. They can be one future suspect of Trump. This is a drinks podcast, okay? I want to talk about what is currently going on in the wine and drinks industry, alcohol-free products, beer, stuff like that, the big markets, some things we enjoy. And it's getting more and more difficult with this weird direction the United States are heading towards. It's even feeling like they're heading towards fascism, and with a guy like Trump, who sometimes feels like he doesn't know what he's going to do next. And then with his first lady, Elon Musk, it's super weird. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel comfortable, and it's even so dangerous and exciting at the same time that people keep on looking for it on social media, on the news. And I don't know if this is also driving and fueling everything, but it's just crazy. And seriously, I hope that this will end soon, because just with the perspective that this will be a fact, just a normal procedure for the next 3.5, almost 4 years, is insane, really. And I'm not talking about the drinks industry. I'm talking about the world. And I don't want to talk about the stupid and bad things that happened this week when he was threatening a war hero, the president of Ukraine, because I don't know, he's a dictator and he's not wearing a suit and all those weird things. Wow, I just don't. Yeah, let's move over to some things in the drinks industry. Let's talk about some good things when it comes to taxes. The Australian government has realized, or at least somebody told them, that the hospitality sector is really suffering in Australia. And one of the reasons might be that they have a tax, not a tariff, that they have a tax on draught beer that is adjusted to the inflation level. So once or twice a year, they adjust this tax according to inflation, which makes beer more and more expensive, and actually makes beer one of the most expensive in the world. And right now they discovered, oh, well, our hospitality sector is suffering, so we should just pause those tax hikes for maybe the next 1 or 2 years and try to give hospitality some energy and some flow and some customers back. And I mean, if they have already seen a decline and we're suffering, it's at least one right step to stop the tax hike. But will it really solve the problem? Actually, I don't know, because the problem is still there. Maybe they should lower the taxes, or they should give some tax refunds. They're currently planned, they're in discussion, but not yet set. Give some tax refunds to bartenders, to pub owners, restaurant owners, and stuff like that. Just to give you some background information, the tax is only for draught beer. So if you buy beer in packages, there is no tax on it. There is no tax hike on it, actually. So there's a set tax, but there's no tax hike on it. So the only effect is on draught beer, and this is an effect that usually is taken by pubs and restaurants and the hospitality sector. Well, yeah. So at least they paused the tax hike for the next 2 years, 2 years freeze on tax increases for draught beer. Let's see if this will have a positive impact on the hospitality sector in Australia. And talking about bans, there has been a ban for booze in football stadiums in Scotland. And the reason for this was a very crazy game, the Scottish Cup final in 1980 between Celtic Glasgow and the Glasgow Rangers. And many drunken fans entered the pitch and, just argued with each other, and this led to this introduction of the ban. And right now they are thinking of moving the ban because, if you go to a rugby game, for example, you're allowed to drink. If you're sitting in a lodge, you're allowed to drink, but you're not allowed to drink if you're just an average visitor of a game. And right now they are discussing if this might be an option. There are no plans, but they are thinking about adjusting something. This is it. Maybe it's a good sign. The thing is that booze and sports, especially football, are very closely connected in the UK, and in England it is a big thing. We have talked about this several times, and they are thinking the opposite way actually, or at least just offering alcohol-free beer. Maybe this will have an impact as well on the decision. Nevertheless, maybe we will have booze in a couple of months or maybe years in Scotland again. We will see, and you will hear about that in this podcast. So right now, the two banger news of the week, if we don't talk about Donald Trump. Organic dealcoholized wine will be possible from March 18th, 2025. So, some companies have struggled with that, and there were many reasons for that. One, because vacuum distillation wasn't part of a organically farmed and produced process. And secondly, there was the discussion with Velcorin, a substance that is added during the filling or before the filling of the dealcoholized wine to the bottle. Unfortunately, reverse osmosis is not allowed, but vacuum distillation is allowed with a specific filter pore size of 0.2 micrometers. Well, yeah. And the maximum amount of alcohol, of course, should be 0.5%. Interestingly, they didn't mention the Velcorin substance. I have to double check that actually. The good thing is that this will open more markets, more possibilities for alcohol-free brands, because especially think about special retailers such as Dens, for example, the organic farmers markets in Germany and Austria. They are now able to sell dealcoholized or alcohol-free wine in their shops under the branding of being organic. And this is an opportunity that hasn't been there. There were brands that labeled their products like made of grapes and then dealcoholized, but with a note that the grapes have been farmed organically. It was just on the back label. You weren't allowed to use the official logo of the European Union or the international one, the leaf. And right now, this will be possible from March 18. And I think that there will be several brands jumping on that train because it opens new markets for you as a brand as well. And the second banger of the week is that there are rumors that Constellation Brands may offload its entire wine portfolio. It's a segment that has been suffering a lot. It was down, 14% over the last 12 months, year on year. 14% down. Spirit sales were down by 15%. And right now there are rumors that they will sell some parts of their portfolio, at least the whole wine portfolio, to Duckhorn and who was the other one? And Delicato Family Wines. So it's just a rumor. They neither have confirmed nor declined it when press asked for a response to that. I don't know if they are still hesitating or they're still negotiating. Who knows? But maybe in a few days or weeks, they will announce whether if they're doing it or not. And we will end this crazy episode with two guys in the Celebrity Corner. One is Pharrell Williams, who will debut his champagne collection, his champagne collaboration with Moet et Chandon. So LVMH has another name on the list. I mean, he has already been on the list because he's the creative director for Louis Vuitton. And he will launch 30 bottles of a $30,000 champagne bottle, specially made for birthdays, as he announced it. And this was inspired by a bottle of 1889, which was wearing the original bow of Moet et Chandon. And he says he has always been directly connected with Moet et Chandon. The first champagne he has ever had was Moet, and right now it was a logical next step to announce his own collection. And the $30,000 bottle is a lot, but I'm pretty sure there will be people buying stuff like that. Yeah. And the last guy of this episode is our superstar, our regular guest, Snoop D-O-G-G, with another brand, with another launch. Right now, it's functional drinks. We are talking about cannabis, hemp, and adaptogenic tonics. Several ones, new brand, iconic tonics. I mean, he's a guy of wordplays, but he also knows what he's doing. He's working in a partnership with Harmony Craft Beverages, and they have released a range of cannabis and hemp and functional infused drinks, tonics. It's one more product on his list. He usually connects it to his other brands. For example, there's a Death Row Records Do It Fluid and a Dog Ibs Doggy Spritz, an elevated cider herbacea, a wine-inspired botanical forward drink, and Lift, a line of hemp-infused seltzers. So creative as usual, marketing on point as usual, and well, with a following like the one he is having, it's a no-brainer actually. If you get the chance, try it. Let me know how it tastes. It's not something I would be attracted by, but enjoy if you're in the United States and if you still want to stay there. Enjoy the sun. It's getting spring. Have a wonderful weekend. See you on Wednesday. Ciao, ciao.